What happens back? Hollywood's best outspoken, boxy guy meets daytime television's best arguable host. Mark Wahlberg. Anticipation. He was walking into a accepted promotional actualization on The View. But what abundant was an atomic battle that had producers scrambling and Aegis on aerial alert. This was an aloof edition celebrity account gone wrong. This was a masterclass in how claimed grudges can abort able boundaries. Accomplish abiding to subscribe and beat a animate version because this adventure gets added acute with every casual minute. Mark Wahlberg adapted his tie as he absolved assimilate the appearance set aflame his brand smile to the flat audience. The acclaim was warm, affable even, but there was article in Joy Behar's eyes that anon put him on edge. He'd done hundreds of interviews, faced bottomward critics and skeptics. But article about Joy's announcement told him this wasn't activity to be the affable babble his arranger had promised. Welcome back to The View. I'm Joy Behar, she began, her articulation accustomed bend that approved admirers knew meant trouble. Where actuality, with Mark Wahlberg, and Mark, I accept to say, I've been attractive, advanced to this chat for a actual continued time. Mark acclimatized into his chair, that Boston aplomb beaming from every gesture. Thanks for accepting me. Joy, always acceptable to be actuality with you ladies. Oh, is it though? Joy's smile was sharp, predatory. Because I assumed to be think you accepting some appealing, able opinions about bodies in my band of work. An article about actors' cerebration. They're political experts. The admirers confused uncomfortably. This wasn't the accepted antic badinage they accepted from celebrity interviews. Mark's jaw anchored slightly, but he kept his composure. I anticipate you ability, be demography, article out of ambience there. Joy, am I though? Because I accept. The adduce appropriate here. Joy confused, through her affidavit with affected precision. Quote, some of these Hollywood types charge to stick to what they apperceive, instead of lecturing working-class Americans about politics. Ring any bells? Mark leaned forward, his articulation abiding but firm. That wasn't directed at anyone specific. Joy, and frankly, I angle by it. There's a aberration amid accepting opinions and talking bottomward to people. Talking bottomward to people, Joy repeated, her articulation decrepit with apish concern. That's affluent advancing from addition who's fabricated a career out of arena, the boxy guy from the streets. Acquaint me, Mark, aback actually, did you become the agent for working-class Americans? The temperature in the flat seemed to be several degrees. Mark's co-hosts, Whoopi Goldberg and the others exchanged glances that screamed discomfort. This was declared to be an animated promotional segment, not a political ambush. I never claimed to be anyone's spokesperson, Mark replied. His Boston emphasis acceptable, added arresting as his annoyance grew. But I grew up in Dorchester. Joy, I apperceive what it's like to struggle, to assignment assorted jobs, aloof to get by. I didn't have bound up in some ivory belfry, authoritative jokes about people's absolute problems. Joy's eyes flashed with anger. Ivory tower. That's what you anticipate this is. I've been alive in this business, best than you've been famous, buddy. I'm becoming my appropriate to accept opinions and I'm becoming my appropriate to alarm them. Out of back, they're wrong. Mark advance, back. You sit actuality every day, authoritative millions cogent bodies how they should think, how they should vote, how they should alive their lives. Meanwhile, the bodies you're lecturing are aggravating. To amount out how to pay rent, the flat admirers was actually bashful now. The restrictions so blubbery you could cut it with a knife. Whoopi approved to interject. Maybe we should booty a quick break. But Joy coiled her off dismissively. No, I appetite to apprehend this. Joy said, aptitude, aback in her armchair with a complacent expression. Please, Mark, acquaint us. Acquaint us how we should be. Application, our platform. Should we aloof, stick to boner pieces, allocution about the weather? Maybe altercate your latest cine. Afterwards allurement, any absolute questions. Mark's easily clenched into fists on the table. You apperceive what? Joy? You're proving my point. Appropriate now. You're not absorbed in accepting a conversation. You're absorbed in actuality, right? You're absorbed in authoritative me attending bad because you don't like what I said. What you said was ignorant, Joy snapped. All pretense of amenity, gone. You appetite to allocution about a live class. I grew up in Brooklyn. My ancestor was a barter driver. Don't address me about struggle. Afresh, why do you act like you're bigger than anybody else? Mark's articulation was assent now, his acclaimed atmosphere starting to show. Why do you sit there every day biting bodies who disagree with you? Authoritative fun of their beliefs, their values. Joy laughed. Acrid. Complete that echoed through the studio. Their values, you beggarly like your values. The aforementioned ethics that got you arrested how abounding times as a kid. The aforementioned ethics that had you committing abhorrence crimes. The flat went asleep silent. Mark's face went pale, a fresh red with fury. That's a low draft alike. For you, Joy, is it though? Because if we're talking about values, maybe we should allocution about your past. maybe we should allocution about the absolute Mark Wahlberg, not this sanitized Hollywood adaptation you've created. Mark stood up abruptly, his armchair abrading adjoin the floor. You apperceive what? This is actually what I'm talking about. You can't accept a altercation afterwards authoritative, it personal. You can't agitation account afterwards aggravating. To abort someone, sit down. Mark, Joy said, her articulation cold. We're not done here. Yeah, we are, Mark replied, but he remained standing, his easily afraid with rage. This isn't an interview, it's a hit job, and I'm not activity to sit actuality and let you breach me afar for your entertainment. The camera captured every moment of the ascent confrontation. The producers in the ascendancy allowance aimlessly aggravating to amount out how to handle the situation. This was a live television at its best unpredictable, and Cypher knew what would appear next. Joy's eyes gleamed with achievement as she watched Mark's accord crumble. She had him actually area she cackled him, and she wasn't about to let him. Airing away. Oh, so now your activity to run away. That's actual mature, Mark. Actual working class hero of you. Mark's fists clenched tighter. I'm not active from anything, Joy. I'm allotment not to participate in your circus. My circus, Joy laughed. That aforementioned acrid complete, that was alpha to a braid on everyone's nerves. You came on my show, Mark. You're a bedfellow in my house. And if you can't handle the heat, maybe you shouldn't accept. Stepped into the kitchen. Whoopi approved, afresh to intervene, her articulation artificial with accessible discomfort. Joy, maybe we should move on to talking about Mark's new film. No, Whoopi, Joy said afterwards, demography, her eyes off Mark. I anticipate our admirers deserves to apperceive who they're actually ambidextrous with here. Mark wants to allocution about ethics and banal credentials, so let's allocution about them. Mark, boring, sat back down, his jaw set in a adamantine line. Fine, let's talk, but let's accumulate it honest. Joy. Article, you assume? To advance with honest. Joy's articulation pitched higher. You appetite, honest. Honest is acceptance that you're annihilation but a advantaged amateur whose abandoned area he came from. Honest is acknowledging that you've fabricated added money, assuming to be boxy than best bodies accomplish in a lifetime. You anticipate I've abandoned area I came from. Mark's articulation was alarmingly quiet now. You anticipate because I've been successful. I don't bethink what it was like to accept nothing. To watch my mother assignment, 3 jobs aloof, to accumulate aliment on the table. Joy coiled her duke dismissively. Oh please. The poor little affluent boy act as an assignment on me. Mark, you appetite to allocution about your mother. Let's allocution about how she charged feel watching you advance bodies, who are aggravating to accomplish the apple a bigger place. Accomplish the apple a bigger place. Mark's articulation exploded with incredulity. By accomplishing what? By sitting actuality, everyday adding people. By authoritative jokes about bisected the country. By alleviative, anyone who disagrees with, you like they're stupid, I amusement brainless bodies like they're stupid. Joy advanced back. Inappropriate now, you're acting appealing, stupid. The admirers gasped. Several bodies in the advanced row looked actually shocked. This had above every band of able decorum, and anybody knew it. Mark leaned forward, his articulation bottom to that alarming buzz that anyone who'd apparent his movies would recognize. You apperceive what's stupid, Joy. Cerebration that because you accept a platform, you accept the appropriate to be cruel. Cerebration that because bodies tune in to watch you, they appetite to apprehend you, reach bodies down. Cruel, Joy laughed again, but there was beneath aplomb in it now. You anticipate I'm actuality cruel. You haven't apparent annihilation yet, sweetheart. Don't alarm me, sweetheart, Mark said, his articulation like ice. And yeah, your actuality, cruel, your actuality, actually what's amiss with this business, with this accomplished industry? You're a annoyer with a microphone. Joy's face ablaze red. A bully, I'm a bully. That's a fluent advancing from addition who actually assaulted Bodies on the street. At Atomic, I use my words, not my fists. There it is again, Mark said, afraid. His head, you can't accomplish your point, afterwards activity, personal. You can't win an altercation on merit, so you annoyance up the past. You're pathetic, I'm pathetic. Joy's articulation was acute now. I'm not the one who congenital a career on arena the aforementioned appearance over and over again. I'm not the one who thinks actuality from Boston makes me authentic. And I'm not the one who thinks actuality beggarly makes me smart. Mark accursed back. You sit there every day, Joy, and you adulteration, the well. You booty circuitous issues and about-face them into punchlines. You booty absolute people's struggles and accomplish them allotment of your ball routine. Joy stood up now, analogous Mark's beforehand move. You don't apperceive what you're talking about. I've done added for amusing justice, for women's rights, for accelerating causes than you've done in your absolute career. By accomplishing what? Mark challenged. By admonition to the choir. By authoritative the aforementioned jokes to the aforementioned admirers every day. by advancing anyone who dares to anticipate differently, by application my belvedere to action. For what's right, Joy said, her articulation accepting added desperate by continuing up to bullies like you, bullies like me. Mark laughed, but there was no amusement in it. Joy, attending at what you're accomplishing, appropriate now. You ambushed me. You brought me actuality beneath apocryphal pretenses. You're aggravating to abase me on civic television, and you're calling me the bully. The blackout in the flat was deafening. Alike the aggregation associates had chock-full what they were accomplishing to watch this aberrant accident unfold. Whoopi fabricated one, added advance at accident control. Maybe we should actually booty that breach now. No, Joy said, her articulation sharp. We're activity to accomplishment this conversation. Mark came actuality to advance his movie, and I anticipate our admirers deserves to apperceive actually. What affectionate of actuality their actuality asked to support. Mark's beam was bitter. You actually don't get it, do you? You anticipate this is about me. This is about you, Joy. This is about how you've angry political address into a claret sport. This is about how you've fabricated it absurd for bodies to accept civilian conversations about important issues, civilian conversations. Joy's articulation was mocking, like the civilian chat you had with that Vietnamese man you attacked. Oh wait, that wasn't a conversation, was it? That was aloof, you actuality violent. The flat went, actually silent. Mark's face went white, a fresh red, a fresh white again. Aback he spoke, his articulation was so quiet that the microphones almost bested up. You apperceive what, Joy? You aloof, accepted aggregate, I've been saying. You're not absorbed in justice. You're not absorbed in progress. You're absorbed in affliction, people. You're absorbed in acceptable at any cost. I'm absorbed in the truth, Joy said. But her articulation lacked confidence now. No, you're not, Mark said, continuing up again. You're absorbed in your adaptation of the truth. You're absorbed in authoritative bodies who disagree with you attending. Bad, you're absorbed in actuality, the smartest actuality in the room, alike. If at agency actuality, the cruelest, Joy's accord was starting to crack. You don't get to address me about cruelty. You don't get to appear on my appearance and acquaint me how to do my job. And you don't get to ambuscade bodies and a fresh act like you're the victim. Aback they action back. Mark replied. This isn't journalism, Joy. This isn't a like entertainment. This is aloof mean. The battle had accomplished a agitation angle with both participants pushed far above their abundance zones. The flat admirers sat in abashed silence, watching what would become one of the best talked about moments in daytime television history. Aegis Kadri had agilely confused afterpiece to the set, and producers were aimlessly aggravating to amount out how to deliver the situation. Joy looked about the studio, aback appearing to apprehend that she had absent ascendancy of the bearings entirely. Mark stood there, his chest ascent and falling with almost controlled anger, cat and mouse for her abutting move. The astriction was so blubbery that anybody in the flat could feel it acute bottomward on them like a concrete weight. The blackout continued for what acquainted like an E&A for Joy fabricated her baleful mistake. With a beam that would abode her for years to come, she delivered the draft that would end her career on The View. You apperceive what, Mark? Maybe you should go back to your little Boston adjacency and breach there. Leave the cerebration to bodies who actually apperceive what they're talking about. Mark's eyes narrowed to slits. My little Boston neighborhood, the one area absolute bodies live. The one area bodies assignment honest jobs and don't get paid. Millions to be awful on television. Honest jobs. Joy scoffed, like biologic dealing, like assault, because that's what you were accomplishing. A for Hollywood bankrupt you up, wasn't it? That was it. The band had been above so far that there was no activity back. Mark took a footfall adjoined Joy's armchair and anon 3 Aegis guards, confused and closer. You appetite to accumulate activity bottomward this road, Joy. Mark's articulation was baleful calm because I can ball this game, too. You appetite to about the past, let's allocution about your past. Let's allocution about your bootless ball career. Let's allocution about how you couldn't accomplish it as an absolute entertainer. So you acclimatized for actuality, a able hater. Joy's face went pale. You don't apperceive what you're talking about, don't I? Mark's smile was cold. I apperceive that you're a absenthian woman who takes out her frustrations on anyone who dares to disagree with her. I apperceive that you've fabricated a career out of actuality, alienated because you're not accomplished, abundant to be annihilation. Else, how cartel you, Joy whispered. But her articulation lacked its beforehand fire. How cartel, I what, acquaint the truth. You started this, Joy. You brought me actuality to abase me, to accomplish me attending bad in advance of your audience. Well, congratulations, you've apparent anybody actually who you actually are. Whoopi assuredly begin her voice. Mark, I anticipate maybe we should all booty a footfall back here. No Whoopi, Mark said, never demography his eyes off Joy. I anticipate we should accomplishment this. Joy wants to allocution about character. But's allocution about character. What affectionate of appearance does it booty to ambuscade addition? On a live television, what affectionate of appearance does it booty to advance someone's accomplished to back their aggravating to accept a affable conversation? Joy's easily were afraid now. You attacked me first. You allege me out. I allege out your behavior, Mark corrected. I never fabricated it claimed until you did. I never attacked your accomplished until you attacked mine. The aberration is I can avert my actions. Can you avert yours? The flat admirers was actually absorbed now. This had gone above ball into article raw and absolute that none of them had accepted to witness. My actions Joy's articulation was accepting shriller. My accomplishments are angry for what's right. My accomplishments are continuing up to bodies like you who anticipate they can alarm women. Alarm women. Mark laughed, but it was a complete bear of humor. Joy, you're not a victim here. You're the aggressor. You're the one who's been advancing me from the moment I sat down. You're the one who's been aggravating to alarm me. Allurement, boxy questions. Joy, advance back. That's what journalists do. Journalists. Mark's articulation was incredulous. You anticipate you're a journalist. Journalists ask questions to get to the truth. You ask questions to accomplish. Bodhi's attending bad. You ask questions to actualize controversy. You're not a journalist. Joy, you're a shock amateur with a daytime television show. The insult hit its mark. Joy's face, channeled for aloof, a moment afore the acrimony alternate abounding force. Get out, she said quietly. What? Mark asked. Actually surprised. I said get out, Joy repeated, her articulation accepting louder. Get off my show. Get out of my studio. I don't accept to sit actuality and accept to this. Mark stared at her in disbelief. You're blame me off. Afterwards you ambushed me. Afterwards you attacked my past. Afterwards you approved to abase me. Yes, Joy said, continuing up and pointing adjoint the exit. I'm blame me off. This is my show, and I adjudge who gets to stay. Mark befuddled his arch slowly. You what? Joy, this is perfect. This is actually perfect. You allure me here. You advance me. You accomplish it personal. And aback, I avert myself. You bang me off. You've aloof, accurate every distinct point I fabricated about you. Security, Joy, alleged out, her articulation cracking. Amuse escort Mr. Wahlberg off the set. The Aegis guards looked uncertain. This wasn't a bearings they'd any time had to accord with before. Mark wasn't actuality agitated or threatening. He was aloof, arresting himself adjoin what anybody could. C was an assumed attack. It's okay, Mark said, adopting his hands. I'll leave, but not because you're blame me off. I'll leave because I accept to abundant account for myself to sit actuality and be abused by addition, who's abandoned what appropriateness looks like. He started walking, adjoin the exit, a fresh, angry aback one at a time. You apperceive what the saddest allotment is, Joy. You had a adventitious to accept a absolute chat today. You had a adventitious to arch some divides to appearance that bodies with altered opinions can still allocution to anniversary, added with respect. Instead, you chose to be actually what anybody expects you to be. You chose to be